Hello and welcome to another video. Today I want to talk about counter jungling. So we go over some specific topics that I've prepared and also some that we just think of as we go. So if we start off with invading. So here we have invades at mostly levels 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. These are like the most common ones. Obviously, there are also level 5 invades, but if I say it that way, then we don't really say anything, right? But okay, so a lot of the champs that we do end up playing on this channel and whatever, and a lot of the champs in general are not going to end up level 2 invading, so this is not so common. Level 5 invading can be common, but level 5 invading is kind of high level because it's a very matchup, item spike, level spike, and lane dependent, right? So yeah. So the main ways that we look for invades are gonna end up being these timers. So maybe I should change the color also to make it easier to see. So level 1, level 3, level 4, and level 6. So what's gonna determine that, right? So obviously still lane matchups and stuff like that. But a big thing is like our champion. So if we're playing something like Cortis, then a level 1 invade is almost always going to be at least decent. Obviously not always. Maybe enemy plays like Sion, I don't know, Sion Blitzcrank, fucking Olaf, and you're playing like Cortis with complete NPC lanes. Obviously at that point it's not good. But yeah, so level 1 invades, either buff, either invading at the start of the game or invading at something like 115 to arrive right as the enemy starts their buff, or you can invade at like 130 or something and try to arrive as the enemy is doing their buff and try to steal that away and whatever. So that's the main stuff about the level 1 invade. Then we have the level 3 invade, right? So who does level 3 invades? It's these champions that don't clear that fast but spike on level 3. So think something like Kha'Zix. You're completely useless level 1, right? You're completely useless level 2. You're complete if I can use this level 4 also, because it takes you so long to clear. But that means that if you're actually stronger than enemies, for example, if you're Kha'Zix against Evelynn or something, then a level 3 invade can be very good for you. Some champs do level 2 invade. It's going to be something like Kindred, Graves, Nidalee, and so on, but we're not going to talk about them too much. Firstly, because I don't really recommend playing them, and secondly, because it's not so common and it's really specific to these champions. Yeah, so that's about that. Level 3 invades obviously also covered with that. Who level 4 invades, right? So the issue with level 4 invades is that level 4 invades you usually have to clear so fast that you can actually full clear before the enemy finishes their full clear. So it's mostly going to be champs like Cortis, because Cortis has such an insane clear that you end up doing the whole clear and you can show up here before the enemy finishes both of these camps. So they're at least gonna have blue or grump if they start at top side same as you. So this is why I find this matchup also really unplayable for Evelynn, because if you start same side as him, this just happens and you are just you're not in a good spot. Not nice. Then level 5 invades, they happen when you get level 5 enemy junglers level 4 and you end up invading them on raptors or something, especially when you get item spikes. But this is high level, so let's kind of ignore this for now. Or well, not ignore it completely, but let's just not focus on it too much. But level 6 invades are extremely common, right? So level 6 is the most obvious invade timer in the game if you get level 6 before the enemy jungler, or if their ult is down and yours is not, then almost always you can invade. Even on champs that are usually weak early game, for example, like Evelynn or something, still, doesn't matter. Like, you just go invade and it's pretty free usually. So, these invades are going to end up giving you jungle camps or killing the enemy, giving you a lead, and then you can take more jungle camps and whatever else. And this is really the basis of that, right? So, these invades are the most important to think about in that sense. But then, okay, so what do we have else, right? So when should we start on the enemy's side of the jungle, right? That could be a question. So, alright, starting an enemy jungle is pretty fine. You can do this either by doing some kind of level 1 cheese invade where you don't contest the enemy camp, but you just steal them, you sneak them away or something, maybe you like swept or something. And okay, that's like pretty common. Or you can have this in the way that we mentioned, where you're level 1 invading, and you will just get the enemy off their camp, right? So these are two pretty different scenarios. So let's talk about each one a little bit, right? So our first scenario is going to be like the free one, right? And the second one is going to be fight. I'm going to try to talk about how you capitalize on this, right? So if you get a free one, let's talk about this first. So you're going to end up doing something like taking the enemy 3 camps in whatever order that you prefer. And then the most likely way to capitalize on that is going to be to just do like, say, 2 camps here and then do like these camps or something. That's a pretty common thing if you have a pretty good clear. If you have like a worse clear or you don't want to clear so much, you can also just go to these camps and take these. In some scenarios, you can also choose to go like this and just take everything. Though on this side of the map is a bit more awkward. Obviously, if you're on the other side of the map, it can be a bit better because after you do all of these, you can maybe just go like this and you can take like everything here. The issue is that more often than not, the enemy will try to run like this. So it's kind of... but this is kind of like timing based. But it depends on the side of the map, obviously, because if you're stealing the enemy red side camps, then it's going to be a lot easier to take all of your camps after that and sequence it than if you're stealing the enemy blue side, simply because of the way that the map works. Because it's easier for you to walk like this and take both of these camps really quickly and then take all of this than it is for you to like take Krugs as well, because they're so out of the way, right? But that's also an option. You can also obviously just do these 3 camps in base and then go here and I don't know, do whatever and then do whatever, right? But these are more interesting clears. But the main focus that you're gonna have after taking like some of the enemy camps is mostly getting as many of your camps as possible, right? And not letting the enemy get anything back from you. That's kind of the main focus, right? All right. So yeah, that's the main focus with that. And then what else do we do here, right? Not too much. You don't really focus on scuttles. You mostly focus on all of the camps. Obviously, if you can get a scuttle or 2, that's also fine. But basically, the more you deny the enemy, it becomes pretty good. But you need to not get baited into like going down with the enemy, right? Because at some point all of their camps will respawn and they will also get leveled up camps everywhere, right? So if they get leveled up camps everywhere and you didn't take any of your camps, then what's going to end up happening is they will get so much more XP and gold from those camps that they will actually end up coming back oftentimes. And yeah, that's the issue with that. Yeah. Okay. All right, so after that, we can talk a bit about these clears, like red to red or something, or blue to blue or whatever. These ones are kind of meh. The main issue here is that this is really awkward tempo-wise, because, okay, you took 1 camp and then you took a 2nd camp, and okay, well, if I just took all of this, like right now, you have to clear this, and then you have to clear all of this, and this, and this to be like slightly ahead, but I'm gonna have more tempo than you because I'm gonna get to play much earlier because you spent so much time walking already. So I don't really like these kinds of clears and I'm not a fan of it. I think it's kind of meh. It's obviously a lot better if you take something like 2 camps here, right? And then you make sure that you get all of your stuff, then at least you're compensated for your tempo. But I think just 1 camp where you take buff or something, it's kind of baity. I don't know. After that, we have stuff like vertical jungling. So when should you vertical jungle? I mean, that's just depending on laners. So if you have a matchup that you really want to impact and protect in bot lane or something, and you're the stronger jungler, just take what you want, right? But vertical jungling isn't really something that you think about in terms of, I want to do this. It's more of a result of what you want to do, right? Like, that is not the product. That is just a side product, right? It's not the main point of what you're doing. So it's not so important. So the main point of what you're doing is you're trying to take enemy camps, you're trying to secure as much gold and XP as the enemy's getting, and you're trying to play towards the side of the map that matters. So that's all that really is in reality. Yeah, okay. And then what do you do if your laners are all like pushed in, right? So when do we really want to counter jungle? Do you want to counter jungle when all of our lanes are in the middle, when all of our lanes are up, or when all of our lanes are back, right? So this is kind of awkward because it kind of depends on the champ that you're playing, both your teammates and you. Because firstly, if you're a champ with a lot of mobility and outplay potential and stuff, say like Nidalee or something, or you can also count champs like Talon can escape really easily, right? Like these champs, if the enemy laners start moving, you can just go to Narnia, right? So it can be really fine. Well, with other champs, you're more committed, like Evelynn or something, especially if you can't fight. If you can fight, though, maybe you would be a champion like Cortis, who's pretty mobile, but you can actually stand your ground. So depending on what kind of champion you are, one that can't fight and can't run, one that can't run but can fight, one that can run but can't fight, or one that can run and can fight, the situation that you want is going to be different, right? So if you want to fight, then it's really important that the lanes can move at a similar timing to the enemy lanes, while if you want to run, then it doesn't matter so much. And if you can't run or fight, then you have to just not meet the enemy jungler or have much stronger lanes. So it's kind of the general rule with that. And it doesn't really matter that much where the lane state is, because even if the lane state is up here, it doesn't mean that your team will come first. Like this is a much shorter distance than this. While this actually is sometimes disadvantageous, because for example, if the lane state is here, then that means that the enemy laners will run longer, and then your laners can also like be right behind them, right? Because look at the time lag here. If the enemy laners are here, they're gonna run here, and your laners are gonna run like this, and this is gonna take much longer for them to catch up. So it can actually be disadvantageous when your lanes are all pushing in. After that, I also want to talk about, okay, so when do you focus on objectives instead of counter jungling, right? So counter jungling is usually good, and you get yourself a lead, and it's pretty much always going to give you a bigger lead than actually focusing on objectives. But the issue that you're going to have with that is that, how do I say this? Like you're going to end up in a position where the enemy has like 3 dragons and you have none. Or the enemy takes like every tower in the map and you take nothing, right? So you have to balance it with that. You want to make sure that you have a win con and you have like an open enough map, but you make sure that you also get like the resources that you need, and you abuse that into a lead. But I would say that generally the lower elo you are, the more consistent it is to just counter jungle every single time pretty much and not even focus on objectives, while the higher elo you are, the more consistent it ends up being to try to balance it out in a way. Yeah. After that, we also have ideas about wards and sweepers, right? So when do you need wards and when do you need sweepers, right? So if you're the stronger jungler, then you can argue for wards in terms of, well, okay, so I want to have vision on the enemy, and that way they can't play, I can always find them and so on, right? If you're the weaker jungler, you can also argue for wards because you want to have vision on the enemy jungler so he doesn't gank or he doesn't like keep bullying you, so you can actually play around it and so on, right? So wards are pretty much always good. But sweeper, though, obviously it's like decent in both scenarios for the same reason, but if you're already spotted, you can have massive issues already. So that's a big issue with sweeper and why I don't really prefer it on anything. except maybe if you're looking for early invades. Like, I only really like it on early invades, and then I prefer to have wards until at least like level 7 or something, right? At least. Yeah. And how do you kill the enemy jungler and his jungle, right? Like, this is mostly gonna come down to them greeting, because you can't actually force anyone to die in their jungle. Jungle is even easier than lane to avoid dying on, but the problem is that it's really punishing, right? So if you're just trying to avoid dying on jungle the whole game, it's going to be really punishing. If the enemy actually takes your camps, then I don't know, like say that you decide to do this and then you decide to do this, right? And enemy jungle just gives it up and he's like, I don't know, he did this, right? So let's color it like this. And then he does this, and then after doing this, you like gank this, you go here, maybe you do like a counter gank or whatever, I don't know, whatever the fuck here, maybe you take this, and suddenly, like, look at the map, right? You had impact here, you had impact here, you had impact here, here. You took like all of this jungle, and what did he get? He got like nothing. So if the enemy jungle doesn't manage to take stuff back when you do this stuff, then it becomes really insanely valuable, right? And this is how you gap the enemy jungler really hard. But yeah, we have some issues with that because I'm guessing that a lot of you play Evelynn and you don't really get to do like 3 camps until you invade on Evelynn, right? It's gonna end up being different. It's mostly gonna end up being the level 6 invade, or it's gonna be with item advantage or level advantage or something. But yeah, either way, this is like a short general video on invading, and maybe I'll make more in-depth ones on the different parts of it. But this is really what you want to focus on in terms of just what you want to know about invading, and just make sure that you understand these things, and not only what I talked about, but also like the concepts behind them, right? So that you have a bit of a better grasp, but it should serve as kind of a guideline for what you should study in terms of invading. Either way, if you enjoyed the video, then like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace.